Introduce yourself and explain why you are a candidate for the Oakland School Board.
So my name is Dia Penning, and I am running for school board because of my previous history. So I have been an arts educator, and I was the arts education manager for the city of San Francisco. So I was deeply embedded in the Arts for All policy in San Francisco. Since my child has been born, I have been working as a racial justice consultant, and I write curriculum about racial justice and lead workshops all over the country. And I think everything just sort of came together for me last year when I really started thinking about some of the issues that were going on in Oakland, and I think more systemic even than just the schools. But I am firmly committed to education as the root, and sort of like, if we are able to create a functional learning environment, then it sort of shifts a lot of the other relationships in the city. If the kids feel well taken care of, if teachers feel empowered, then people have better relationships with their communities. And that's when I think about systems lenses, that's kind of how I think about it. It's like, where is the place that we can put pressure on that will start to ripple effect? And for me, education is that key component.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to post the second question, and then I'll give you a second to read it, and then I will read it out loud.
Okay.
What is your strategy to run a competitive campaign for the school board, and will you commit to rejecting donations and support from privatization-linked organizations such as Go Public Schools and the California Charter School Association?
So I am running a campaign that is built on donations from folks in the community. I am working with some LGBTQI organizations, but as far as Go Public Schools and California Charter School Association, it's not something that I'm seeking endorsement from, nor would I take money if it was offered to me. I'm really committed to public education and committed to the democracy of public education, and making sure that parents and students and teachers all have the ability to impact how school works and are able to have a voice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's your next question. What is the role of the school board?
So, I think, very like sort of succinctly, the school board, right, hires the superintendent, supports them and holds them accountable. We approve budgets, policy, we help in creating new policy, we look at charter applications and renewals, we manage the sale of district-owned property, and we make decisions about schools opening and closing, right, including charters as well as. And I think that the role really of a board member is making sure that people's voices are heard and being responsive to those voices. So being a representative and a champion for parents and students and teachers, really being available and responsive and listening. I think that is one of the things that has put me on this path, and one of the things that's important about the work that I do as a racial justice educator is listening is key. And if you cannot find a way to support everyone, there needs to be a way that you distill the information and are honest about the places that you can't support everyone, right? So I think that is also a really important part of being a school board member, is being able to be clear and honest, and listen. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. So here's the next one. So legislation like Prop 39 and Measure G have resulted in OUSD public schools and charter schools competing for resources. How will you navigate this situation to ensure equitable distribution of resources, funding, and access to district-owned property?
So I actually believe that it is time to sort of reimagine Prop 39. I think that with some work with state legislation or state legislators, it's time to really rethink it. It was sort of built in a different time, and I don't know that it was ever great policy, but I don't think that it is appropriate for how schools are now. And especially in Oakland, with the school already being, I think it's 33% charter. I think that there needs to be a really honest conversation about the impact that that's having on the public district and the way in which it affects our students at the margins. So one of the proposals that I sort of have for myself is, what would it look like to bring the charter schools back into the public district so that we're able to incorporate those schools that do have parent and student support, that do have amazing teachers, but that there should be a pathway forward for including them in the district and having them be public schools once again. I think that approving new charter schools is probably not the way to go. I feel like the resources of OUSD are stretched pretty thin, and allowing more students to leave our public district means that our resources are stretched further. And there's a really good chance that our public district might crumble under that. And I'm really an advocate for finding any way possible to bring those charter schools back into the district, recognizing that legislation is sort of, for many people set in stone, but I do think that there are ways to talk to legislators and figure out if there's some wiggle room.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could you describe some examples and sources of environmental racism in your district and say how they have affected OUSD students, parents, and educators? What commitments can you make towards combating the disproportionate impacts of pollutant exposure on OUSD students, parents, and educators?
Yeah, so it's pretty well documented that West Oakland and Northwest Oakland have pretty poor air quality. Primarily because of the freeway. And I think, so this sort of goes back to my introduction about really thinking about things in terms of systems. I think that it's important to work with folks that are doing environmental legislation as well when you're thinking about school sites. And then, so that's one component, really thinking about how environmental legislation affects the communities and the schools that are closest. But then I also think that there is an opportunity for green spaces in schools to sort of absorb some of that. And so how do we really make that a priority, not only in terms of trees and flowers, but also I'm a big proponent of edible schoolyards. I have my own vegetable garden. I think that having a space where kids can be in the dirt and playing with all the things that are in the dirt, and then also really enjoying the things that come out of the garden to eat is helpful as well. And then that goes to other sorts of has additional impacts where you can have conversations about diet and available food sources, and there's a broader conversation about why you might not have access to things in certain communities. And so it will get the ball rolling in many different ways. And I know that there are green spaces on a lot of campuses. I also know that often it's the responsibility of a teacher. So one teacher takes it on and that sort of becomes their project. And so I think that one of the things that I'm really curious about is how we might be able to embed that a little bit more into the school culture and as a responsibility of the school as a whole. But I do think that addressing some of the air quality issues need to be addressed. That was funny how I said that. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is, as we are upgrading some of the buildings, making sure that there is excellent ventilation is also really important.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. What's the next one? So students and families identified student support, class size, deteriorating school facilities, high teacher turnover, and outdated curricular resources as the highest priority issues facing our schools. How would you partner with teachers, students, and families to solve these problems and meet the needs of students?
So first off, I am an advocate for small schools, and I'm pretty upfront about that. I think that small schools, it also, there's really good research that small schools support students really well, specifically students that are on sort of the edges of the bell curve. So both students that are struggling and gifted students work much better in small school communities. And I am of the opinion that all students benefit when you work with students on the margins. People can debate that, but that is my personal belief. So I am also an advocate for teacher autonomy, and I think that it is really important that we use our best resources in the city. Oakland is an incredible city that has a plethora of people that do deep social justice work, transformational, social transformation, racial or anti-racism training, curriculum development. I mean, we are like an amazing community. And I really feel like being able to work with our community to support our students and our teachers and figure out a way to reimagine some of the things that are most broken about our system could make us it could make us a model for other districts. I think that what is possible and what we've sort of gotten to are two very different things. Bringing the voices of teachers and students and parents to the table and focusing on those, I think gives us much more opportunity in fixing some of our really difficult problems in the district.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you believe in and support the right of public school employees to organize and to bargain collectively? How will you work to maintain and strengthen employee rights, including bargaining changes in job descriptions and assignments, healthcare, and pensions?
So absolutely, I am absolutely a supporter of unions. I grew up in Michigan, which is a big union state, and I believe that unions create standards that support not only the folks that work for the unions, but also support the broader fields. And in this particular case, also create standards for the education of our kids, including understanding child development. So that's a whole other sort of thing that I can go off on. But I think that for me as a board member, my primary responsibility would be to listen and to be able to come to the table with a deep understanding of what it is that all parties need. I think that my work as a facilitator and a mediator are super helpful in this way, because I know that there are things in state legislation that make certain things, like make some things difficult, right? And so there needs to be an opportunity for people to be able to listen to one another and come up with solutions that work. I believe that teachers are the reason that we have good schools, right? Teachers are the people that are doing the work of educating our kids, and they need the support of the board, and they need the support of families as well. And so for me, my whole reason for wanting to be on the board is to make sure that we are able to work as a community to support the schools.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So this last piece is just you have the opportunity to make any closing remarks if you'd like to, and then after that we can answer any questions that you have for us.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I do have questions for you. I don't know. I mean, I've talked about being an advocate for racial justice and being supported to our youth at the margins. I wanted to say that when I talk about youth at the margins or youth on either side of the bell curve, I really am talking about all of the kids, the low income kids, unhoused, foster youth, learning challenged, twice exceptional, gifted, the kids that sort of fall out of the either side. And it's not that I'm not supporting all of our children. It's just that I really feel like those kids end up falling through the cracks a little bit more often. I also worked in the arts as an arts educator, both in the classroom and as an administrator for years. And so I have a natural ability, but also an interest in being in the process of something while also sort of holding the process. So I have the ability to participate while also understanding the systems that are around it. And I am very adept in systems thinking and supporting an understanding of how that works in sort of the minuscule and the day-to-day. It's like how does the larger system impact the things that we are doing now? Why are we having the conversations that we're having? What's the history that's brought us to this point? And it's really important to me that there is some time and understanding that goes into how we got to where we are before we just start pushing back, right? Like, it's important to know why we're here. And if people don't understand why we're here, then we can't really fix it, because then we start making the same mistakes over and over again.